Oh my gosh, guys, look. Oh my gosh, that is so cute. Would you just look at that? Oh my gosh, it's the new intern. Let's go get the paperwork ready for him. I'll tell you why I don't like cars like this. Look at it. It's got no swagger, no prestige, no road presence. That's the problem with cars like this. Now, I'm not just talking about this one. I'm talking about this whole segment, this whole compact hatchback segment. It just screams childish high school student, college student, you know? I don't care if it's this car, a Golf, a Civic Type R. I don't care. All of them, I lump them all in the same category. None of these cars please the ego. Now, cars like the G80, the Genesis, a Mercedes S-Class, now stuff like that, that screams big ballin' ass bitch. Now those are the types of cars that I like. Those cars exude luxury, prestige, got great road presence, curb appeal. You know, that's what I like. You know, that's the stuff I'm into. So you're probably asking to yourself, why do I have this? Why do I pay money for this thing? Well, that's because they're amazing. Why else? Like, no shit, like they're the best, you know? When you really look at them objectively, and once you put your ego aside, cars like this make so much sense, it's not even funny. They're so practical, they're so useful. They have amazing power, especially like these touted up ones, you know, these hot hatches, if you will. They have great performance, they drive great, amazing practicality. You can fit adults in the back. It's such a useful vehicle. And, you know, especially in America, you wonder to yourself, why do we have such large vehicles on the road when we don't need them? You know, especially when you get into something like this, you wonder why there's such large, you know, a family has like a kid, they go out and get a minivan for like 8 people. I mean, it just makes no sense, you know? Stuff like this does, especially when you factor in the price. This thing was 20 grand out the door. This R-Spec Veloster, manual, 201 horsepower, 195 foot-pounds of torque out of this 1.6 turbo 4-cylinder. Amazing. But we'll go over more of that during the driving segment. Now, what I love most about this car, even during its inception back in, I think, 2010, 2011, whatever it was, I've always loved how unique this thing was with its 3-door asymmetrical design. I've always loved that. There's no other car out there that does this, and there's probably some weird European car out there or some Indian car, I don't know. But regardless, this is the only car like it in America, and it's awesome because from one side you got this like cool coupe looking car, and the other side you have this practical 4 or 5 door whatever thing. Really practical. You can actually legitimately get adults back there, which I love. Now, there's even been instances where I thought it would be practical, or I've experienced times where I would have loved to have a door on this side, but I'm glad it's not there because that's what makes this unique. That's what I love about this car. Yeah, it would make sense if they put the door there, but they didn't, and I love that because that's what makes this quirky and cool. So great job there. That's got great touches, especially on this R-Spec model, like the LED running lights and stuff like that. It's got the halogen, incandescent, whatever, turn signals. That's there. A couple of aero scoops at the bottom, like most Hyundai Kia products do these days. This particular one comes with these 18-inch rims. Now, if you step up to the Ultimate trim, you still get an 18-inch rim, but it's a different style. I personally like these better, these blacked out R-Spec wheels a little bit more. Now, if you do opt for this model, you get these insane tires. This car is so over-tired, it's not even funny. It's got these Michelin Pilot 4 tires on it, the same tires that I had on my Kia Stinger. You see them here in a car with literally half the horsepower, which is just hilarious to me. I'll touch more on that a little bit on drive, the pros and the cons of those tires on a car like this. Now, a couple of places that are not so unique is probably that front grille, very Audi-like, and also these rear taillights, which, if you know anything about cars, they probably look a little like Aventador taillights to you, just kind of reversed. So the rear is very impressive. These haunches, it's so wide. This is one of the most unique and aggressive rear end stylings I've ever seen in a car. Now, if you do follow me to the rear, you'll see the aggressive styling also. Come around to the back, pop open the hatch. Stupid amounts of space back here. Pretty deep because if you see, the load height is kind of high, but that makes it for a pretty deep trunk space right here, and it's huge. This is actually pretty comparable to the Kia Stinger. It was about like 19 or 20 cubic feet Up here, what, fucking hell. Now this rear trunk space is very comparable to the Stinger. It's about like 19 and a half or 20 cubic feet of space right here. And if you fold down the seats, you get about 40. So a ridiculous amount of space, more than any sedan that you're ever gonna get into. You got this piece of cardboard here, which you can throw out if you want. But it's supposed to be like a privacy shade thing. So there's that. More styling details, you know, a little spoiler on the back here, which is nice to see. Diffuser looks amazing down there. You know, you got this little running side skirt thing that says turbo on the side of it, which is nice to see. And a little red accent in the front, very GTI Volkswagen-like, but looks good on this car. Overall, this car just has a nice quality look to it. It looks like a quality built vehicle. So really enjoy the exterior of this car quite a bit. You know, if you disregard the fact that it has no road presence and all that stuff, it is a good looking car, objectively speaking. Welcome, welcome, come in. This is the new 2019 Veloster interior. Now, when you look around, no, it is not wrapped in Italian leather, like most reviewers for some reason expect it to be. It is all hard plastic everywhere. Now, if you come here and look, the window switches feel extremely cheap and plasticky. The tactile feel just isn't there, especially compared to the other Kia Hyundai products, which they usually do a great job of this. Like in the 2019 Forte I was in, it was amazing. You know, it actually had like a quality feel to it. This car, not at all. Now, is that really something that you should be complaining about? Absolutely not. What people fail to understand is this is a subcompact that was $20K out the door for a car with sport suspension, sport exhaust, B&M 6-speed short throw transmission, a decent engine with some pull to it, 201 horsepower. And you expect to have some ridiculous leather upholstered interior, get out of here. I mean, you're so delusional at that point. You know, people complain that this isn't leather usually in a lot of cars. Like, what do? Sleep on this thing? Absurd. I mean, you don't touch half of this stuff here. Now, this thing that you do touch, the steering wheel, that happens to be this leatherette wrapped, whatever, this soft touch material. Steering wheel feels so high quality. Love that. This shift knob is like this aluminum thing that feels really good. Usually, I think people are pussies when they complain that, you know, it gets too hot or too cold to grab onto. I still think they are, because just grab it and just row your gears. I mean, don't even worry about it. Now, one complaint that I legitimately have about this interior, I usually don't complain about this because I usually don't care, but in this car, I am. This screen looks so childish, so cheap. It's insane. This actually looks like a Fisher-Price children's tablet. It's not even funny. Usually, I don't complain about these stuck-on screens, but in this car, I will, because this is a joke. I mean, this looks so cheap. I mean, yeah, it has the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Yes, it's a great screen, the screen that you're used to with these Hyundai Kia products, but my God, does this thing look so stupid, and it's shrouded in this piano gloss plastic. It's the only bit of piano gloss plastic in this entire car, and they just happen to put it on this insanely high traffic area up top where the sun beams on it, and you can actually see all of the dust and particles that fall on it. So not the best choice there. However, objectively speaking, the screen is very good, like in most Hyundai Kia stuff. You know, this is all rehashed Hyundai Kia stuff, very similar interior. The layout is fantastic, and that's what makes this interior so good. It's because they did a great job with that. Climate control, literally one of the best. This is probably my most favorite climate control in a modern day car. It's so old school and easy to use. Man, I just can't say enough good things about it. It's just hot, cold, that's it. You got 2 settings, so that's nice. Now, if you want to actually talk about the actual interior of the car, seats, they're cloth and they feel great. You know, they're highly bolstered. Because they're cloth, they're pretty comfortable. You know, it doesn't matter if it's hot or cold outside. You're never going to be freezing yourself or burning yourself with these seats. So that's really good. However, these things look kind of interesting, especially when I first got into it. They look like those shoes that they started to make nowadays, the new fashion, where it's just like, they're like these sock shoes. You know what I'm talking about? These, like, that's what these, you know, seats look like to me. And there's like this yellow stuff all over the interior. And I think every trim gets this. I don't know if these are some kind of Korean racing colors. Somebody in the comments, please let me know what this color is, but I feel like it's on every single trim, no matter what color you get. And these seats, this is like the only color you can get with the R Spec. But it's funny because there's like this red stuff on the exterior. So I don't really understand that. Anyway, styling aside, good seat. What I don't like about the seat is in every Veloster, doesn't matter if you get a 2-liter, this R-Spec, or the Ultimate will have leather seats. However, they're all going to be this manual seat option, which is really annoying, especially in this manual car, because if there's 2 people driving this car, it's going to be really hard to get adjusted. It's going to take some time to keep moving your seat back and forth between 2 people driving a manual car. However, I get it, it brings the weight down, the complexity down when you have a manual seat adjustment. So I understand that from that perspective as well. Now, there is no garage home link, but what this car does come with, even in this R-Spec, which is kind of a more basic model, comes with this 8-speaker Infinity sound system, which sounds incredible, actually. I really like it. Usually, Hyundai Kia does a great job with their Harman Kardons and their Infinity sound systems. Any of their upgraded audios sound really good, so that's great to see in this R-Spec model. And we're in. Now, before you get in, watch out for this this roof right here, because you will hit your head on it if you're a little bit taller, like I just did today. But once you are in, you can be up to 6 feet tall and have no issues sitting back here. But 6 feet is really the cap, because I pretty much just about barely have enough space in here. But this is, I can sit like this for at least 45 minutes. This shouldn't be a huge issue for most people. I'm about 5'11", and really I can sit behind my own driving position, so that's really good. Now, obviously, there is no middle seat in this car. That would be ridiculous. So what they did was they just replaced it with 2 cup holders. So that's nice to see. Now, there is no like armrest thing that you can pull down. These seats just come down altogether is what they do. So there is that. There is no ventilation in the back. It's just more plastic. So, is what it is, but you get what you pay for. Someone sitting here, if you're a little bit claustrophobic, you don't have much of a window here, and you can't roll down this window, so you just have to deal with that. It's just one of the quirks of having a 3-door car, I suppose. So with that, guys, let's take this thing out on the road. All right, driving segment it is. If these jerk-offs will let me. All right, well, another fun day driving in Cary, North Carolina. Let's talk about that engine first. Now, this engine produces 201 horsepower, 195 foot-pounds of torque. A normal human getting into this is going to be really pleased street driving this car. This car has plenty of balls for the street. You really don't need something like an N. You just want something like an N. You just don't need it. It pulls almost like a V6 does, which I guess is the point of these little turbo cars. So there is that. Power is really linear in this car, which I really like. I really wasn't expecting that for a turbo engine. Minimal lag with this manual trans. Also, it's really rev happy. It revs really quickly, and this thing has to have some super light flywheel or something like that, because it's not difficult to overshoot the revs on this thing if you're like, blipping the throttle and trying to downshift and all that stuff. But once you get used to it, it's not a big deal. Now, I've actually experienced this motor before in the 1.6 turbo Soul, the 2020 Soul, when I was at the event for that. And that was coupled with the 7-speed dual clutch. And to be honest, I didn't really like that combination. It felt kind of weird to me. It felt really laggy, very hesitant. The power delivery wasn't nearly as linear as this is. I really like this combination with the manual. I have not driven an Ultimate Veloster with the 7-speed dual clutch, but I'm assuming it would be the same thing. This combination I really like. Really linear, really predictable. Love it. Speaking of that engine, it's a pretty cool engine. It's been around for a while now, but for once I actually hear the turbo like a whistle sound, especially if you're, let's say you're doing like 30 miles per hour and you're like in, 4th gear, let's say, and you just floor it. You get that little turbo whine come through, which usually I don't really hear in a lot of these mainstream turbo engines. So I'm really pleased to get that here. Now, because this is the R-Spec, there is a sport-tuned exhaust, which I'm not gonna lie, it does give this thing some legitimate growl to it. It gives it a personality, like a flair. I like it. You legitimately hear it. It's not too droney or too intrusive, especially once you're in the higher gears and you floor it. It's really just mainly down low, which I think is really cool. Gives this little car personality, and I would say this car overall has a personality, so that's great. And we can briefly touch on fuel economy. Now, what am I getting trashing this thing around? Well, when I was driving it kind of normally, I was really pleased. Well, normal. I mean, I'm still smashing on this hill. Don't get me twisted, but driving it, pretty normal with some slight smashage here and there. I was getting like 30 mpg, and that's all pretty much city driving too. I hardly ever do any highway driving. Now, when I do drive it like a jerk off, I'm still getting like 27, 28 mpg. Really not bad mpg. This is the first turbo engine I've seen that gets good gas mileage, and I'm really happy to report that. Also in the Soul, when I was in the 7-speed, I was also getting about 24, and I was driving around in the mountains. So really impressed with the fuel efficiency of this 1.6. I will say the 2.0 base will probably get better gas mileage real world. I know on paper this 1.6 is set to get better gas mileage, but I don't know, if you care about longevity and real world fuel efficiency, I would check it out. But I guess in this Veloster, this 1.6, this R-Spec in general is the one you want. Now, the main highlight of the R-Spec is the manual transmission. As you know, it's a B&M short shifter, and it's really impressive. I love this transmission. It's one of the main reasons why I wanted to buy this car. It's so predictable. It's not difficult to maneuver. The clutch uptake is really light, so traffic, when you're sitting in traffic, it's a non-issue really. It's not something that I'm personally worried about having this manual, so that's why I keep saying, because this is so easy, so rewarding to have this manual in this little car. That's why I'm saying that the R-Spec, especially at the price, is the one that you want. It just gives you so much value per dollar, because you do still get some creature comforts, and this manual is really nice to operate. So I definitely recommend this over the 7-speed dual clutch. Now, daily driving it, that's what this car is. It's a commuter car. It's supposed to be a fun little commuter car. There is definitely some tire noise, some wind noise that comes through. I mean, what do you expect? It's like a 20 grand hatchback, subcompact thing, whatever. I like how this is the R-Spec, so it has no sunroof, so you don't have to worry about that rattling or creaking. However, I have noticed some creaks and rattles with this vehicle. Some are like up top here where the sunroof would be, so I guess that doesn't really matter. Also, somewhere within the door panel area, I don't know if it's from the back or from the passenger side, but it exists, it's there. Is it annoying? It doesn't really bother me too much, but it might bother you. So check it out, take it out for a test drive, but I don't think you can really eliminate that in this class of vehicle anyway. If you crank up the music though, you won't have any issues. Now, going back to this being an R-Spec, yeah, this R-Spec doesn't have the sunroof. It just makes it just that much more rigid, and rigid it is regardless. It's a great chassis. The body control is excellent on this thing. Obviously, the car does sit pretty low as well, and that helps it. But there's also been a lot of weight reduction attempts. This car weighs about 38 to 39 pounds, something like that, less than the previous gen's lightest model, which I believe was the Veloster Rally Edition. I believe was the lightest model that you can possibly get. This is a little bit lighter than that. I know 38 pounds doesn't sound like much, but it's in the right direction. Usually cars, they add more safety features, they get heavier. At least this is going in the right direction. It's becoming more lightweight. So the range of the weight goes about 2,800 to 3,000 pounds, which is really good until you take into consideration that the new 2020 Kia Soul that I drove also is in that range, about 2,800 to about 3,100 pounds. So, it's a light car, but I feel like it could be lighter. I would like to see this car at like 2,600 pounds. That would be really good, but maybe that's asking for too much, but whatever. There's been extensive uses of aluminum with the suspension components of this car, so that's also great to see with this vehicle. And that all aids in this vehicle shedding some weight over the previous generation. Now, this goes for all Velosters. Every Veloster gets, from the 2.0 to the 1.6, a multi-link rear out of the Elantra Sport. So that's great to see. Usually In the Elantra bases, the Kia Forte bases, you get the torsion beam. The previous gen Veloster had a torsion beam, and a lot of people were complaining that when you went over some rough pavement, the rear end gets a little, shaky. Not so in this car. The multi-link, it's really solid. I've had no issues. I've had it through some really rough pavement, and it never gets unbalanced or shaky, or you never lose your confidence behind the wheel driving this car, so that's really nice to see. Now, multi-link, that's great, and this vehicle does come with a sport tune suspension because, again, it is the R spec. It's really the enthusiast focused vehicle, and with that, the ride is a bit on the firm side. This ain't no G80, but it doesn't ride bad. You can definitely daily drive this thing. The firmness of this car is acceptable for what this is. I think it matches the personality of this car. It's definitely not bad. Again, it's reassuring because you feel every bump in this vehicle in a good way. I mean, you really feel the road and all that, all the little undulations and cracks or whatever. It kind of sucks to be a passenger in this car because being the driver it's fantastic, but for the passenger it kind of sucks because it feels like you're going way faster than what you are. It's a little bit nerve-wracking. You can't just chill and be on your phone. Now you're kind of like looking around and stuff, kind of bracing yourself, but whatever. This isn't about that. This is about the driver. Again, you can easily still daily drive this. It's just points that I'm bringing up, just things to watch out for if you're test driving it. It doesn't bother me. I have no problems. These cloth seats, again, like I mentioned before, they're really comfortable, so that helps with the comfort aspect of this vehicle and daily driving it. Now, I've always praised Hyundai Kia steering, and in this car it's no different. I really like the steering in this car. Again, they always nail it. It's always balanced and not overdone. However, if you put this thing into sport mode, because this is the manual car, there's no like transmission tricks it can do. It's literally just tightening the steering, and by tighten it just makes it synthetically heavy, and I hate it. I hate driving around in the sport mode. I never do that. I don't notice anything different with the throttle. That doesn't get too crazy. That's always kind of just rev happy. But the steering just gets heavy for no reason, and I just don't like it. But put it back in normal mode, it goes back to being a good, solid Hyundai Kia steering. This car feels very European to drive, actually. I think a lot of people are going to be happy to hear that, especially if you're looking for a Golf GTI. I haven't driven a GTI. I haven't driven any of these new hatchback things because, as I've said before, I don't really care about them. However, it does. No, this does feel really good to drive. You gotta scare these jerk offs sometimes, All right, that's enough terrorizing the people of Cary. They can't handle this aggressive driving. Brakes, that's the only other thing about this car I haven't touched on. Brakes are really good, actually. They're touchy though, as you may or may not have saw. They're a little bit on the firm side. They kind of have all the bite up front, which, most cars do that. It's kind of electronically boosted. I'm okay with it in this car. It kind of suits it for this car, I guess you can say. However, I don't know, it is definitely a little bit over boosted in this car. It makes for, especially with this manual car, it makes it kind of difficult to heel toe and stuff like that. It's something that you have to kind of get used to, because if you ever try to go for a heel toe in this car, you kind of just, lurch forwards because you're braking too much. But if you're used to it, if you're used to driving like newer cars with manuals, you should be fine with it. But the brakes do work, that's for sure. They definitely do stop you, so that's good to see. Now, this thing sticks like crazy, and I'll tell you why it sticks so hard and why you can legitimately toss this around like it's nothing. That's because of these Michelin Pilot 4 tires. These crazy summer tires offer so much grip in this thing. I have never, ever heard any tire chirp or anything like that. These tires are so overkill for this little 200 horsepower car. In something like a Kia Stinger, I can see it, but in this, I have no idea why they did it. Daily driving with these tires, it's kind of annoying because it literally picks up all the rocks. The Kia was no different. However, in this car, it flings the rocks around in the fenders and it makes like these crazy noises, and it's so annoying. oh, it's so concerning to hear that. It feels like your paint is being like stripped off of it, but it's not. They're just kind of, you know, screwing around with the fender flares, I guess. But I just hate hearing that. And I guess if you're some ricer and you have like these types of tires on your Honda Civic, you're probably gonna be used to it, and you'll really like it. And you know, a lot of why this car drives the way it does is due to the tires. I mean, this thing sticks like crazy, and it gives it like a really confident, assuring feel when you're driving this thing around for street driving. You don't miss the fact that this car doesn't have an LSD in it. Now, if you took this thing out to like a autocross event or something like that, parking lot racing, whatever, you'll probably notice the shortcomings, and you'll probably see the need for an LSD in a situation like that. But for street driving, you're gonna love this because the tires offer so much grip that you're not really gonna ask for much more out of this car. Although I would like to drive the the Ultimate Veloster with the all-season tires, just to see what this car would be like without the crazy tires, to see how the driving experience differs. Yeah, this car, they could have easily gotten away with putting some aggressive all-season compound like a Continental Extreme Contact, or even, you know, if you need the Michelins, you know, the AS3 Pluses, I think would have been more than enough for this little 200 horsepower hatchback. But hey, they overtired it, and makes for that much more fun of a driving experience. Well, final thoughts on the 2019 Hyundai Veloster. I'm late to the game. This car has come out for like nearly a year now, so you've probably already seen every single review on it. So you're probably just looking for a confirmation that Veloster owners, you made a good choice. And you did make a great choice, because this is a really good car. This car makes a lot of sense. The price is amazing. The driving is amazing with this car. It is fantastic. Going back to the interior, the layout is amazing. Infotainment, climate control. Overall, I mean, yeah, it's a super practical vehicle. You can fit adults in it. You can carry all their things in it. And I think this R-Spec model is really probably the sweet spot with this vehicle, not just with price, but with everything that you're getting. They give you just about everything that you do want in a car, like the upgraded audio, the screen, the shifter, and all that stuff. They give the enthusiasts, you know, what they want, with also a few creature comforts, which really makes it nice. If you're spending close to 24 grand for the Ultimate, just shut up and spend the extra 3 or 4 and get the N. You know, at that point the N makes sense. But if you're an R-Spec shopper, go with the R-Spec, and try to get it for like 19 or 20K out the door, because that's really where this car comes into its strengths. I was doing a bit of shopping, bit of research, and I saw a VW Golf. Just out of curiosity, I was just checking the websites. They're asking 32, 34 grand for a hatchback. I don't care how good of a car that thing is. You don't spend that much money on a hatchback. For a children's car, you don't spend that much. 20K? Yes, 100%. So with that, that's really my consensus. I think the Veloster in general is pretty much the best in segment when you take into consideration everything: price, drivability. The Golf is just too expensive. The Civic, I just don't know. It might be good, but I think even that, dealerships aren't really giving that great of a deal on it. Now, the final thing I'm going to touch on is the reliability. I leased this car, and that's mainly because, yeah, I did say the 1.6 turbo is amazing, but it is a GDI direct injected motor. I'm not saying the Honda or the Golf is any better reliability, but I just feel more comfortable leasing these vehicles. But if you are financing and you want to keep it for a while, it does come with a 10-year, 100,000 mile warranties. That should keep you, happily asleep at night knowing that fact. So overall, I would say the Veloster is a buy. If you're shopping for a hatchback, put this on a short list. Definitely check it out. I think you'll be really happy with it. So with that, that concludes this review of the 2019 Veloster. I hope to see you guys on the next review that I do. Thank you and goodbye.